Marcus had started this table 6 times. 6 times the legs collapsed. 6 times the surface split. 6 times he walked away without looking back. Rain leaked through the broken roof of his workshop. Cold drops struck unfinished wood like tiny accusations. The floor was littered with ruined boards, crooked cuts, bent nails, abandoned sketches, the evidence of a man who always stopped halfway. Marcus slammed his hammer onto the bench. The sound cracked through the empty room. "I will never finish anything." The words lingered in the air like smoke after a fire. Then a voice answered from the doorway. "Good." Marcus froze. The voice wasn't mocking. It wasn't angry. It was calm, certain. He turned sharply. A woman stood beneath the low wooden beam of the doorway. Rain slid off her dark cloak in slow drops. A small lantern glowed in her hand, warm and steady, untouched by the wind that rattled the loose boards of the roof. Her face was old but sharp, lines carved by years of work, not weakness. Her eyes carried the quiet confidence of someone who had seen storms before and never rushed them. Marcus recognized her immediately. Asha, the carpenter who had shaped the temple doors that still stood flawless after 40 years. The woman whose joints never creaked, whose lines never wandered. People spoke of her like a rumor. Few ever saw her. Marcus felt suddenly exposed, like a child caught breaking something sacred. "You shouldn't be here," he said. She stepped inside anyway. Her boots crossed the threshold slowly. Her eyes moved across the room. The warped boards stacked against the wall. The half-built frames leaning like tired men. The table carcass at the center, scarred, uneven, unfinished yet again. "You live inside beginnings," Asha said softly. Marcus scoffed bitterly. "That's a polite way of saying I quit." Asha placed the lantern on the bench. The golden light spilled across the wood, revealing every flaw, every rushed cut, every uneven seam. "Quitting is not your disease," she said. Marcus crossed his arms. "Then what is?" Something about the way she said it felt final. That night, Marcus lay awake listening to the rain drum against the roof. His mind replayed her words over and over. Touch the wood. Not fix it. Not finish it. Just touch it. It sounded foolish, which made it dangerous. Day 1. Morning light filtered through dusty windows. The workshop smelled of damp wood and cold metal. Marcus stood before the table. His instincts screamed for big progress. Cut the legs again. Fix the frame. Start over properly. Instead, he grabbed a strip of sandpaper and rubbed one tiny edge. 3 minutes. The motion felt meaningless, childish, embarrassing. He stopped and stared at his hands. "That's it?" he muttered. He left the workshop feeling stupid. Day 2. He tightened a loose joint. 2 minutes. Left. Day 3. He smoothed a rough corner. 4 minutes. Left. Day 4. He measured a beam carefully, twice, and made no cut at all. Left. Nothing dramatic happened. No sudden joy. No surge of pride. No miracle. But something inside him shifted quietly. The table no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt neutral. Day 7. Marcus made a small mistake. A shallow cut landed slightly offline. The familiar surge of frustration rose instantly, hot and sharp. "You always ruin it," the old voice whispered. His fingers tightened around the tool. He almost slammed it down, almost walked away. Instead, he fixed only the crack, then stopped. The urge faded. That frightened him more than failure ever had. Day 12. The storm arrived without warning. Rain hammered the village. Wind tore loose roof shingles. The dirt road flooded into mud rivers. Neighbors called for help. Fallen fences, soaked grain, loose animals. Marcus worked until his muscles burned. By the time he returned home, his clothes were soaked, his hands numb. He stood in the doorway of the workshop staring at the table. His body begged for rest. "I'll skip today," he whispered. Silence answered. Then Asha's calm eyes surfaced in his memory. Marcus sighed, stepped inside, grabbed the sandpaper, and rubbed the single edge. 2 minutes. It felt ridiculous. It also felt like victory. Someone notices. Days later, a traveling carpenter passed by the workshop. He paused. His eyes caught a small calendar nailed to the wall. Tiny pencil marks filled every square. "You work every day?" the man asked. Marcus shrugged. "I show up." The carpenter studied the table closely. He ran his fingers along the joints. "These seams are steady," he said. "Not rushed." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I need a table like this," the man added. "I'll pay." Marcus froze. Money exchanged hands. The calendar suddenly felt heavier than wood. Someone trusted his consistency. The internal war begins. Success didn't bring peace. It brought fear. What if this was luck? What if he failed again? What if the streak broke? He began overthinking each movement, measuring too long, adjusting too often, nearly slipping back into perfection hunger. Then he remembered Asha's rule. Small, quiet, steady. He forced himself to stop early each day. Restraint became the new discipline. Day 23. The sun was already high when he woke. Panic surged. He rushed through errands, helped a neighbor, lost track of time. Night fell. The workshop stood dark. His body screamed for sleep. He staggered inside, touched the table with his fingertips for 10 seconds. Saved. He laughed alone in the dark, half relief, half disbelief. Day 30. The table stood nearly complete. Smooth, balanced, strong. Marcus hesitated. Finishing felt dangerous. What if completion changed him? What if success removed his excuses? What if he had nowhere to hide afterward? His hands trembled slightly. He left the final bolt untouched. Not yet. Marcus sat outside under the night sky. The village slept. Crickets sang. He realized something quietly terrifying. For the first time in his life, he was afraid of finishing more than failing. Day 31, morning light fell soft across the workshop. Marcus entered slowly. His fingers brushed against the table's smooth edges. It was solid, balanced, complete. He hesitated. For years, finishing felt like stepping into the unknown. Now it was here, real, honest, waiting for him. No one was watching, no applause, no certificates. Just wood, tools, and the silence of consistency. Marcus tightened the last bolt carefully. Every turn deliberate, every joint snug. He stepped back and breathed. Nothing exploded. Nothing changed. Except he felt different. That evening, just as the sun painted the horizon in burnt orange, Asha returned. She entered the workshop without knocking. Her lantern long gone, she walked in using the fading sunlight. "You finished it," she said softly. Her voice was calm, but not casual. It held weight. Marcus nodded slowly. "Yes, it's done." Asha circled the table, her eyes scanning every edge. She ran her hands along the smooth corners, the sturdy legs, the polished surface. "You didn't build a table," she said finally. Marcus frowned. "Then what did I build?" "Trust with yourself." Her words landed like stones thrown into a quiet pond. Ripples spread in his chest. Marcus realized he hadn't simply finished a piece of furniture. He had completed something that mattered not for anyone else, but for himself. Each tiny action, each 2-minute ritual, each day he had almost quit, it had accumulated. A steady rhythm, invisible but unstoppable, had formed. He could feel it now, a calm certainty he had never known before. This was the true work, not the table, not the wood, not the carpentry. The discipline of presence. The art of showing up. Days passed. Orders came. Marcus worked steadily. The first table was delivered. People noticed. Praise arrived. Money arrived. Recognition arrived. And with it, distraction. What if the next project fails? He thought, what if I lose the streak? The old voice of fear whispered, as persistent as ever. Asha appeared, as if sensing his turmoil. You don't fight fear by rushing. You fight it by staying. Just as you did with the table. Marcus remembered the early days, sanding one edge, fixing one joint, showing up. That tiny streak had become armor. The lesson repeated itself clearly. Small, steady, consistent action beats talent, bursts, or motivation every single time. Someone notices again. A week later, the traveling carpenter returned. He ran his fingers over another board Marcus had cut perfectly. I saw your streak, he said. You show up. You finish what you start. That matters more than anything else. Marcus smiled faintly. Inside, he felt a quiet pride that didn't need words. By day 40, Marcus no longer worried about perfection. He focused on presence. Even when orders piled up. Even when friends asked him to help. Even when he felt tired. He touched the wood. He adjusted the edges. He completed the small steps that mattered. The habit had outgrown fear. It was no longer a rule he followed. It had become part of his identity. A month later, a new student appeared, a boy named Elias. Elias wanted to learn carpentry. He watched Marcus. What's the secret? The boy asked. Marcus smiled. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed him a plank and sandpaper. Touch this every day for 30 days, Marcus said simply. The boy blinked. That's it. That's it, Marcus confirmed. Asha's lesson had become his own. The secret wasn't in explaining. It was in doing, showing, passing the method quietly, letting action speak louder than words. Day 60, 2 months after starting the streak, Marcus returned to the original table. It stood in the corner of his workshop, polished, complete, and beautiful in its imperfection. He touched it gently, each joint solid, each line straight. No one could see the months of small, almost invisible effort, the micro decisions, the 10-second touches, the resisted urge to quit. And yet, that was the real power. The world rewards presence more than bursts of energy, steady effort more than inspiration, showing up more than feeling ready. Most people don't fail because they are weak. They fail because they leave too early. The streak had taught him patience. Not the loud kind of patience you preach. The quiet, almost invisible kind that changes you inside. Every morning he showed up. Not because he felt inspired. Not because he was motivated. Not because anyone was watching. He showed up. And in showing up, he built trust. With himself, with his craft, with life. And you can also do this.